welcome to everyone who's watching to the third part of our session musician series. And we got two wonderful guests today, and I'm going to start with our host. He has worked as a guitarist with top names in the UK pop scene, such as Jessie J, Ellie Goulding, Tiny Temper, or Melanie C, and also worked with lots of international artists, such as the Jacksons or Kelly Rowland. Please welcome Ryan Haberfield.
Hi everyone.
I gotta make noise.
That's a virtual bow. Thanks.
Great, there we go. And our special guest today has started working as a session musician at the age of 14. I couldn't believe that when I read that.
Wow.
Back in Italy, and he moved to London in 2012, and since then has performed with artists such as Rita Ora, Jonas Blue, Tom Jones, Incognito, Craig David, Stormzy, and Emeli Sandè. Welcome, Luca Faraone.
Woo!
Thank you all.
Great. For everyone that's who's watching, if you got any questions, you will see a Q&A box at the bottom. And please just put all your questions into that instead of the chat bar. That will give us a bit more control of seeing which questions we have answered. And I would say before we're gonna go directly into the conversation, I got a quick video here from Luca playing with Stormzy at Glastonbury last year, and we're just going to start with playing a bit of that video. Amazing.
That was amazing.
Thank you.
Loved it.
Great. I'm going to mute myself and have fun.
Thank you.
Awesome.
Great.
Thanks for introducing us. Hi everyone. Hope you're all well. So before I ask you any questions, let's just chat about that Glastonbury performance. That was amazing. I absolutely loved it. What was it like to play on that stage?
Well, nice, obviously. Quite a nice sensation. It was weird because, like, people would imagine that you step on the stage and you see a mass of people in front of you. So I was lucky enough to have played Glastonbury the year before with Craig David, but that was in the evening. So I could actually see the people right then. And the weird thing is, for the Stormzy thing, you couldn't really see anyone.
So
you could
just
only
playing...
see lights.
Wow, because it's quite a long distance, isn't it? From the edge of the stage. I remember when I did it's like 20 meters or so. There's a big gap.
Yes. So you just see like tiny lights. It's almost like when you land with the plane, you see lights. It's like you see lights forever and ever going in front of you. And then I don't know, it's just like the sensation was like playing in a dark sky full of stars.
Wow,
I know I'm getting romantic now, but
so romantic.
That was the sensation. It wasn't like feeling like you're playing two people as such. But it was so weird. I mean, the whole environment was so magical.
Yeah, it
so
was
nice.
It sounded amazing. Like your playing sounds amazing.
Thank you. And then something happened that night as well, which never happened in my life before. Everything worked.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
No way.
I don't know how.
Everything worked. It was meant to be.
Everything
was
worked.
meant to be.
Incredible.
Because when does that ever happen?
Yeah, right?
Oh, when I did it back Glastonbury 2011 with Tiny Temper, and we had the opposite. So we were on, it was about 6 o'clock, so you could see people.
By the way, I must have seen that video maybe like 100 times.
Oh, no, stop it.
Let's have the little fanboy moment. That one, the X Factor one, some show in the US, I can't remember.
No way.
Yeah.
Going back, it's nearly 10 years ago that is now. It's a long time.
I know. I was dreaming of being you, babe.
Oh, that's so nice.
When I came to London,
No, I'm dreaming about being you.
Oh, no. Look at my hairstyle as opposed to yours.
I like your hair. But we had the opposite. So we had a gig the night before Glastonbury. So at the time, it was probably the biggest show at the time. It was 100,000. And we had been in Denmark or something the night before. Flew over, right first thing in the morning. And BA lost like 12 to 15 pieces of the fly pack.
All right.
Like hard drive, they lost 2 of my guitars, they lost the bass. So Glastonbury, unfortunately for me, kind of as you were saying, it was a nightmare because, just any guitar you can get hold of.
Wow.
So it was a bit stressful. Different monitor mix because everything was different. They had to drive a hard drive disc down. It's going back 10 years, so everything was a bit different then.
Yeah.
So to drive stuff down from London, and we just sort of cobbled together this show.
Wow.
So the complete opposite. So it's nice to hear that it all went
in
very
retrospect,
smoothly.
how did it go?
The gig, I think the gig went all right. I mean, I watched it back some of it back on the TV. your mix sounds so much better than ours broadcast.
Okay.
So whoever was mixing your show sounds way better.
Yeah. Shout out to Raphael.
Raf, good old Raf. Oh man, I miss Raf. Send my love anyway when you see him next. He was monitors on Tiny, and I love Raf. Yeah. Anyway, let's get on with some questions. With myself and Luke have not ever chatted before. For everyone watching, never ever. So we might go off on a tangent a lot, I guess.
Yeah,
talking about things. Nice. But I have a load of questions for you. So let me start at the top, which is quite interesting. How did you first get into music? Then, when did you start playing guitar? What age were you? That sort of stuff.
Okay, so as far as I can remember, I started playing guitar when I was a little kid. So as far as my memory goes, I had a guitar in my hands, basically. The official story told by my parents is my grandparents gave me a small guitar for my first birthday.
Wow.
Like a real guitar, but just smaller. And I was using that as a toy, always, as opposed to any other toys. And then by the age of 4, I was kind of stealing my dad's guitar, like a big classical guitar, because he plays kind of everything. Not professionally, but he plays like horns, a little bit of bass, guitar, keys, whatever. So we had quite a lot of instruments in my house. And I wasn't allowed to use his guitar. So I would wait for him to go to work and then just steal it.
Yeah.
And then I started playing actual chords when I was around 4.
Wow.
Yeah. Obviously, they weren't sounding good, but the shapes were there.
Yeah.
And then I started, I've got like homemade videos of my first compositions, and I was like 5.
No way. That's amazing.
Like very elementary, like one melody with a bass line. Just
wow.
But yeah, and then I guess I just played every day of my life, basically. As far as I can remember, I had the guitar in my hands every day, all day. And I would sit in front of the TV and just try and play anything that would come on the TV.
Yeah.
Adverts, opening themes, anything.
Amazing.
And then from there onwards, I just played forever, basically. And then I got an electric guitar for my 6th birthday.
Wow. So you started really young then?
Yeah. Really,
wow.
Really young.
So music then, I guess, you never sat down and thought, I want to play guitar. It was just been there forever with you.
Yeah. I never decided as such. It just happened.
And then go on. I was just saying, how did you then progress from playing as a teenager? What was your sort of journey to becoming a professional guitarist?
Yeah, so I knew that I wanted to be a professional guitarist ever since I was 6, because I remember starting school and saying I want to be a professional guitarist. So I had in mind that type of journey was going to be difficult. Because of the people surrounding me, all the musicians I knew, obviously like older than me, they were all saying, oh, it's a difficult job to do in Italy. Like if you want to be a professional live musician, it's going to be super hard.
Yeah.
Blah, blah, blah. So obviously the going to some academy or going to some school was always an option. But as a kid, I never wanted to do that. Somehow I kind of felt like that would like strip me off of my nature kind of thing. Obviously a weird, just like childish creed. But so I never did anything like that up until I was 9 or 10.
Yeah.
I started going to a school just to play with other people because I didn't know anybody my age who could play. And I wanted to play with people.
Yeah. Wow. So young as well to be doing that.
Yeah, no. I went and did that. And through that, I met a guy, a teacher, classical guitar teacher, who asked me if I wanted to study with him. And he was preparing people for the conservatoire, like classical guitar academy. So we did like a year of lessons of like anything, blues, rock, classical guitar, just everything. And then I met a couple from like northern Italy, just like on holiday when I was 10. And then the next year they asked me if I wanted to go to their place for a week because there was like a classical guitar masterclass.
Right.
So went there, did that, and that was supposed to be for like very advanced players. And I never really played classical guitar. My nails weren't grown as well, just nothing.
No.
So I started that, and one of the teachers in there was the teacher of the conservatoire of the place. And he heard me playing, and he was like, so, okay, we're going to study together for a week. and then how about you come back next year and you give the exams, like
Wow.
third and fifth year exam
No way.
in a year. And I was like, nah, there's no way, I've never done this. And he was
Yeah.
like, I think you can do it, and also if you manage to do it, you're gonna be the youngest person in Italy to ever like pass the exams.
No way. So how old are you then? Were you 10, you said?
11.
Wow.
11. Yeah, so if I managed to do it when I was 12 or 13, I would have been the youngest. So that
Wow.
thing alone made me think, okay, cool, I want to do it.
Yeah.
I want to try. So I did 8 months of private lessons, just preparing all the program for the 5 years. And that was a crazy
Wow.
period. I was practicing every day from like 5 in the morning to like 11, going to
No
school,
way.
obviously, doing my
Yeah.
homework, and then do classical guitar, theory, writing music, and like
Yeah.
reading and all that.
Wow.
So yeah, so I did that and it went well. And then after that, I kind of realized I didn't really want to play classical guitar. I started kind of being in this vortex of, I was very young, so people would give me master classes for free just because I was young, or I would play so many concerts, like classical guitar concerts, just because I was young. So I had many doors opening, but that wasn't really what I wanted to do. In my head, I just wanted to be in a big stage
Yeah.
with the electric guitar just rocking out, basically.
Like Glastonbury.
Yeah, basically.
You did it.
Pretty much, yeah. And so I started playing with bands because I was 13 by then. And I started playing with my first bands, like, you know, like the big, in Italy, like we have, in the summer, you have so many concerts outdoors. And so I started doing that. And I had my first contract when I was 14. And then by the age of 15, I started working in a studio.
Wow.
Yeah, because I met a guy, like, he was doing a course in my school, and then I met him, and then he liked me, and then I started working in there. And then from there onwards, I started doing, like, albums for people over there, where I would arrange the stuff and play bass, guitar, drums, and a little bit of keys. So just do the whole thing by myself, basically.
Wow.
And then, like, little adverts or, like, small documentaries, stuff like that. And then after I finished school, at the age of 18, I kind of started taking off with playing every single day with so many different bands, so many different styles, so many different projects, blah, blah. And in like 1.5 years, I kind of played with everyone in Sardinia, because obviously being a small island, you don't really have so many possibilities. And even like the big bands in there aren't really big, because there's no like big scene over there. So I had 2 possibilities if I wanted to really make it a reality. Either go to Milan, which is the center of music in Italy, or just go somewhere else. So I chose London, just because obviously it's the center of everything artistic in Europe. But honestly, I thought to myself, okay, I'm going to go there for a month, because it's very likely I'm not going to survive, because the level is going to be so high that I'm just going to like run back home.
Yeah.
So I went there for a month, and the level was so high. Yeah. But then that thing didn't make me want to go home. I wanted to stay. I wanted to absorb all of that. I wanted to become so good.
Yeah.
So yeah, did the month, came back for like 2 months just to play every single day in Sardinia and make some money.
Yeah.
Survive in London. And then came back to London and I stayed there forever, basically, up until now.
And so when's that, about 10 years have you been in London?
8 now.
8 years, wow.
Yeah.
And then, I can see someone just put a question about how to break into industry, I guess. What did you do next then? So you come to London 8 years ago, and how did you go from moving to, did you know anyone when you first moved to London, or did you just literally
Nobody.
So tell me then, how did you go from, being this guy from Sardinia who can obviously play amazing on guitar because you've been playing forever and ever and ever. How did you go from that point to doing that Glastonbury show? What did you do to get into the industry and meet people?
Okay, so firstly, I'm not amazing now, but I definitely wasn't amazing then.
Well, you must be the youngest in Italy to ever do that thing.
Yeah, but that was classical guitar. It helped me now. Now in retrospect, I see that it really helped me.
Yeah.
But back then, playing fusion in like Troy Bar.
Yeah.
That wasn't really. And also, I didn't know any jazz at all. I didn't know fusion. I didn't know funk, soul, any like music coming from those roots. I didn't know.
Yeah.
There's no scene like that in Sardinia.
Sure.
So I kind of discovered everything when I came to London. So it was all new to me.
Yeah.
So how did I do it? Firstly, I Googled Jam Sessions London. That was the first thing.
Okay. Yeah.
Because obviously not knowing anyone, that's the first thing you do. So I found out about Troy Bar on Fridays. I found out about some blues jams on like, can't remember, maybe some in Camden, some in like Central London. And then any little weird jam that I would find out about, I would just go and check.
Yeah.
And I went to London with a, like 2,000 euros.
Yeah.
Something like nothing, thinking about it now.
Yeah.
And I promised to myself, okay, I'm not gonna try and look for a job up until I finish this money. So I'm gonna try and see if I survive with this money.
Yeah.
And then I'll see. So I started using my time trying to go everywhere up around jam sessions, and also all the people I would meet in jam sessions, I would kind of make contact with, and then go to their place, play together, or like meet somehow, or maybe meet the next day to go to a jam session together.
Yeah.
And stuff like that. Try and make new friends and make new contacts in music. I was lucky enough to get my first job. I arrived on Wednesday and I got my first jam session as a house band on the Monday.
No way. That's really quick. Wow.
Yeah, I mean, it was paid 20 quid.
It's still is.
So people out there don't, that has to be done sometimes.
Of course. When you're first starting, absolutely.
Yeah. I mean.
Yeah.
So yeah, I did that. That allowed me to make contacts anyway, to meet so many people. And then from there, I think Troy Bar and Ronnie Scott's were the most, like, the two realities that made me kind of propel the most onto like live music.
Yeah.
I met people like Stephen G. Legend, Rick James. We have friends in common, obviously.
Yeah.
Thomas, who are like incredible musicians, I started playing with. And then, weirdly enough, I think it all kicked off with me playing bass, really.
No way.
I play bass as well, alongside
Yeah.
guitar. The story isn't really the guitar player who plays bass. I kind of started bass and started guitar at the same time. So even when I would learn songs as a kid, I would learn the bass parts, and then I would learn the guitar parts, just like two separate things. So I remember one day going to Troy Bar, and that must have been like the third or fourth time I would go there. And I would normally play guitar, obviously. And then one day Rick James was probably tired or whatever. He was like, you, play bass. I was like, all right, cool. I played bass, and then after that, it was like, listen, can you dep for me for a few gigs?
Wow.
I was like, okay, cool. And so I started depping for him for a few jam sessions, a few small gigs. And then people started calling me on bass just because they knew that I was depping for Rick.
Sure.
So I started kind of making my way into the music scene like that as a bass player first. And then obviously I was playing guitar around jam sessions a lot. And I got calls for like small auditions for like small things. And then from there onwards, obviously you build contacts, and people who know you, or you know people who know somebody that can get you an audition. And basically that's what happened.
Okay, nice. So I just touching on Jonathan's question. So we kind of touched on a lot of that. So kind of, Luca, what you went through was very similar to me. You know, I come from South Wales, that's where I grew up, and moved to London. I didn't know anybody, and I mean, quite a while ago now, I think it was 2004, I moved to London.
Okay.
And I probably did, I would say, 6 years of what you explained, you know, just going around to jam sessions, you know, going out for drinks with people who I've met at jam sessions, trying to get together and play with people. You know, if you meet someone at a jam session or gig and they need a guitarist, you're like, yep, I'll do it, you know. And I pretty much did all of that for a long, long time. You know, your contacts start small, and then they just grow and grow and grow. And like you said, there's an audition for so-and-so, so you go to that audition. You know, I think I failed at pretty much every audition for about 5 years. I didn't get any gig. Honestly, I did auditions where I was the only guitarist, and this happened on more than one occasion, and I still didn't get the gig, and I was the only one that turned up, you know. So it was a lot of that sort of thing. So
now you have good stories to tell, at least.
Now I can laugh, you know. Thankfully, I'm in a thankful position. I can laugh about this stuff, but it sounds like it's very much the same as you. For me, it was just a lot of graft and going to gigs, going to jam sessions, and just keep doing over and over, you know, obviously you need to be good to a standard where people want to call you. But I find a lot of people I speak to who've maybe moved, not from London, have moved to London, have done the same thing as what we have had to do. Is just very much, going to jam nights, going to pub gigs, and just play with as many people and try and meet as many musicians as possible. Would you say that is sort of how you've ended up entering the industry?
Yeah, that's pretty much it. Because the first big auditions I did was for Craig David. Yeah. And I got it through a friend who I met in jam sessions.
There we go. Yeah. And it's like for me, the first big one I had was probably, it was like talking big pop gigs was probably Tiny. How did I get Tiny's gig? Well, the keyboard player, I was playing guitar for his wife for like 6 years, who I'd met because I was in a band with her brother.
Yeah.
It was very much, persistence and these small little links that you get.
People would say it's a game of chance.
Yeah.
But then obviously you can facilitate that by
Absolutely
meeting as many people as you can.
Just meet
and doing as many things as you can. So
Absolutely.
Any possibility that would come up, you kind of have some little seeds planted everywhere, and people would remember you, and people would see you as well. Being consistent in going to places, seeing people, blah, blah, being in the scene, actually.
Absolutely.
That is the way to do it.
100% agree with that. That is, yourself, myself, how a lot of other people. So, Jonathan, I hope that answers your question. I can click that.
Let me open the Q&A.
And I've done that. So,
okay, Jonathan. Actually,
I've just got rid of it
as well. Yeah.
So, any words with him for guitarists looking to start in theatre pit bands? Charlie Wilson. Is that anything you've done, or do you want me to take this one?
Yeah, take it. I've never done anything like that.
Okay, so you should come sit in with me once sometime for a laugh. Next time I'm doing a theatre show, which obviously we're in the middle of Corona, but it'll be maybe next year. Come sit in. We'll just have a drink afterwards.
Please, let's do it.
So the theatre thing is kind of similar to the pop, if I'm honest. You need to meet people. You need to get out there. You need to meet contacts. Slightly different way of doing it. So what I did to get into the theatre, first things first, you need to be able to read well. If you can't read music, then you're going to struggle getting into theatre. So definitely get on top of that. I got into theatre through doing a lot of amateur dramatic stuff. So I went, even on the schools, phone your local schools and just say, are you doing an end of year concert? Do you need a guitarist or a drummer or whatever? Ring the local amateur dramatic societies, look at the schools, the universities that might be putting on an end of year show, and just go along and play as a hired guitarist on all the amateur scene first, because all it's going to do, you're going to meet people. So you meet people who are all on the road up together, and then eventually someone might get into the West End who you might get a little link to. It's very much the same sort of thing. The other thing you can do is try and find out who's playing in all the bands of the West End shows. It's easily found on Facebook, Twitter, that sort of stuff. Message them and ask them to go and sit in with them. Just go and sit in and have a listen to what they play. Do not be pushy. That's one thing which I'll say after I've had a few of my own shows in the West End, and it's very, very irritating. When someone comes in to sit in with you and they're basically trying to sell themselves. I'm not going to name any names, but there was one guy that literally sat next to me and just basically told me how amazing he was and all his endorsements. And at the end, I finished, literally played the last note of Lion King, put my guitar down. He's like, when can I have a go then? And I was just like, I don't need anyone. It's not happening. It's like how to talk yourself out of not, doing that. So that's another thing you can do, is find the guitarist and just sit in with them. Everyone's pretty nice. Everyone's pretty chilled. Everyone wants to help each other. Chances are they're not going to give you an opportunity unless you're known. So you need to get known by going up through the amateur stuff. Kind of the same with the jam nights. It's very much the same with the amateur circuit. And just go meet people. It's kind of the same sort of thing, really, isn't it? Get your name out there. Get to know people and that sort of stuff. So that's what I'd recommend for the theatre stuff. Function gigs as well, like weddings, are really good just to get used to playing different styles, getting your guitar sounds down, that sort of thing, for when you come to a theatre show. The thing which a lot of people think about theatre as well is, you have to be able to sight read anything ever. It's not always like that. I would say if you're depping in the West End, so if you're just covering for a guitarist, you'll have 2 weeks, you'll have a CD, you'll have 2 weeks to prepare. It's when you get to the point where you're offered your own show, that's when you need to be able to sight read everything. And I've had some hairy old moments doing that myself. So Charlie, I hope that answers your question a little bit. Right, let's get back to some of the stuff on the prepared sheet, Luca, for you.
All right.
Let me just have a look. We talked about networking. Yeah, so what would you say then? Would you just recommend that all the students listening to this just kind of do what you've done if they want to get into the session industry? Just get out there and do that sort of thing? Is that what you'd recommend them do?
Definitely. If you guys want to be professional musicians in the live world, then that's definitely one way to do it. Obviously, there are many ways. You might know somebody who knows somebody who's like super connected, and that might be easier. That person might connect you to something, and that might be another way. Or maybe you're part of a school like ICMP, and then maybe your teacher has a connection, and they connect you to somebody, and then you're in.
For sure.
And that in allows you to have some different doors opening. So there's so many different ways. Also, this is an important thing to notice. I get so many people asking me, what's the way to do this? What's the best way to do that? It is scary, but it is beautiful as well. The beautiful thing about the music industry, our job in general, is there is no precise way to do something, to achieve something.
For sure.
To get to somewhere. So you kind of make your own road. You just decide what the path will be.
Absolutely.
So it's kind of a romantic thing. Again, like you do what you feel is best, because you never know what's right. Definitely. Like, should I text that guy? He told me he was going to call me, but he didn't call me. What shall I do?
Yeah.
Should I be a little pushy, because maybe that way he's going to see that I'm interested? Or shall I not bother him, because maybe if he didn't call me, he didn't want to call me, and stuff like that. I mean, there's so many different variables in the journey, even in like everyday life when you're trying to make it, kind of thing.
Yeah.
That you really have to evaluate every single possibility by yourself through your sensitivity. And everybody's different. And I managed to get to know so many different people and so many different characters in the industry who are so different, so much different than me. Like, I don't know, I would play with people who would have this like very strong attitude, and they would like have very strong opinions and show them, and then be pushy whenever they want to. And if they want something, they would just like hustle so much. And then they got to play like big gigs as well. So they kind of made it.
Yeah, I know what you're saying, yeah.
So, I mean, there's different ways. Even like sometimes, I'm not going to name names, but sometimes, like there's been a few occasions where I was playing with an artist, and it wasn't easy for me to kind of find a way to communicate with the musical director at the beginning. It took a while. And another member of the band was so like cocky.
Okay.
Almost arrogant.
Yeah.
And like, that would work. He was saying things that I would never say in my life.
Yeah.
Especially not to some people you're working for.
For sure.
But then, the content of the things he was saying was cocky.
Yeah.
But the way he was saying the things was kind of sweet.
Okay.
I don't even know if I can describe that, if it makes sense to you, but it worked. And that was a good way to communicate with the person he had in front of him.
Sure.
So there's so many different variables in this, so many people you're going to end up connecting with, and they're all different from each other. And then at the end of the day, what counts is the person you are in general.
For sure.
So, but obviously the secret is just go out there.
Yeah.
Do as many things as you can, meet as many people as you can, and be as good as you can as a person first.
Definitely. No, I absolutely agree. When I've had chats like this with people, there's a few things I always say. And like the one I always kind of say is, don't be a dick. It's like,
I should find it. I have a sticker like big like this saying, don't be a dick.
Don't be, and it's like, you have to kind of remember when you're touring or whether you're doing a show, whether you're doing a function gig, you're working really close to people. And if you want a good reputation moving forward, people need to like you to rehire you. Again, I won't name any names. There's people I would never phone in a million years, and they might be great. However, I ain't calling them because I don't want to be around them. You know,
Yeah.
if you know what touring's like, you're on the bus, you're spending a long hours, and you know we've been there where someone you're touring with you don't like. It's quite hard work.
Yeah, may I say something cheeky?
Yeah, go for it.
Guys, showers are very important. Take showers.
Yes.
What he said is right. Like, you're physically very close. to each
Very
other.
close, yeah.
Physically, even like on a tour bus for 27 hours to go from one place to another, it's very important that you shower.
Take a shower and don't leave.
Hygiene is very important. Please.
Please do that, and don't leave rotten food out in front tables. Put it in the bin. You know, like
Yes.
simple little, just just
Yeah. Don't
manners.
fart
Yes.
if you can avoid it. And stuff like that. I mean, it's important tips to give to people.
I think so. You know, it's
might
bizarre.
not
Isn't it?
know.
You know, people want to talk about guitars and we're talking about personal hygiene on
Yes,
the tour bus.
basically.
But it's so true. You know, I got a story about Levi. Actually, I'll tell you
right.
later. I'll tell you after.
Did he
we're not
fart?
being- No, it's weird. I'll tell you later. It's hilarious.
All right, cool.
When we were doing Mel C together, he had one too many shandies, but I'll tell you that later.
All right.
You don't know that story.
No, I do not.
Okay, we'll save that for when we're not being recorded, but it's
All
very
right.
funny. So there's a few people have asked some questions. Actually, we've got loads of questions. So
Awesome.
let's just start at the top of this question box and work our way through. So Gareth, you've asked, in a jam situation, what are your thoughts on the cage system? What systems do you use? And thanks for the chat. So what do you think about the cage system? And is there anything you use, or do you use anything similar like that?
All right, my answer is going to be very short. I
on
don't
then.
think anything of it because I don't know anything of it. I mean, I know what it is,
Yeah.
but guys, you might be very surprised. I want to say this little secret to you. So I'm going to do it like this. So I kind of know the notes in the fingerboard in this area. Then kind of from here to here, it's all a mystery. And then from here, it repeats, so I know it.
No way.
Yeah. So, and chords wise, I know major sevens. I don't even know if this is a normal seven or some other extension. I don't know. And then the other chords I know, I just call them weird chords.
Really? So what did I see? I saw a video of you playing on your Instagram. It was like, have you ever done Fender or Andertons or something like that?
Yeah.
And you were
both of them,
playing some
yeah.
like really nice like harmony and chords, and so what goes through your head then when you know, let's call it, I don't know, whatever you want to call it, that sort of guitar-y stuff, you know, extensions and all this. What's going through your head when you're playing that
I
stuff?
make them up.
Are you just hearing
I
stuff and
make
just
everything
playing?
up.
You see, just
Yeah,
on the
it's all
spot.
melodies to me.
Wow. So
Yeah,
everything's there.
basically. Yeah, even a chord to me is like 3 melodies.
Okay, interesting.
I never think vertically.
Mm-hmm.
Never ever. And I never think theory because I'm lucky enough to not know anything.
That's brilliant.
Yeah. And I've wanted it that way.
Yeah.
And I started studying harmony for a period of my life. And I did my first lesson. And it was about dominant chords.
Yeah.
They explained what a dominant chord is, when you use it, and then you can use it if you want to modulate to a different key and blah, blah, blah. Then from the next day onwards, anytime I would play and I would use a dominant chord, something in my head would say, this is a dominant chord.
Okay.
And I would hate that sensation. I much prefer not knowing what I'm doing and do it naturally.
Interesting. That's a cool approach.
Yeah.
I mean, like,
So chords wise, I don't know. Like, yeah, go on.
no, I was just going to say, it's like different, I guess different to how I've learned a little bit, just from another perspective. I never learned the cage system. I only learned the cage system to teach people the cage system, if that makes any sense. When I taught myself pretty much how to play guitar. I did a jazz degree when I was like 18, even though I never really was that interested in jazz. I just want to play guitar, and that was at the time. Before places like ICMP, there was no way I could do a degree in music, so I had to just study jazz, which was great, you know. So the cage system, I sort of learned to teach people. However, it is very, very useful, I think, when you know it, and you can apply it to chords, to scales, to harmony, to soloing. You know, it is, as I've learned it for a teaching method, it's fantastic. And if I was to start playing guitar all over again, would I learn it? Probably yes. I think it definitely, It makes sense. I find that people, when I talk about the cage system, I teach the cage system is a very easy way to understand the map of the fretboard and, you know, the ins and outs of that sort of stuff. So, I mean, do I use the cage system? I don't know if I use anything anymore. It sort of comes to a point where I remember seeing this thing on YouTube. It was John Schofield, you know, and he was doing a masterclass at Berkeley or something, and a student puts his hand up and is like, John, can you tell me what scales you're using when you jam in C minor? And he's like, well, I don't know, I just play stuff in C. And I think at some point, I don't know if you're like, I just sort of got to that point where you're just kind of doing it by ear and you're playing stuff with what you need to do, I guess. So, you know, have I been through all the modes of the melodic minor, the major, all this stuff, all the harmony? Absolutely. I did a music degree, so I sort of had to do all of that sort of stuff. So I don't know if that really answers your question, but that's my thoughts on it all. And it's nice to hear how you've learned as well. It's really interesting that you know, you say you don't know chords, but I've heard you play, you know, you play loads of chords. It sounds amazing.
I know, just make them up. I don't know what they are.
So if you know, like, just interested, if with like major sevenths and stuff, when you're doing the gigs,
Yeah.
are you just sort of hearing what's going on and just playing the appropriate harmony and that sort of stuff? Nice.
Yeah, pretty much. I don't work with shapes as such. So
Yeah.
if I hear in my head that I want to have a major 7 type sound,
Yeah.
it's very rare that I would play something like, or something like that. I can't even do it because I'm not used to it.
Yeah.
I might play something like maybe or like even this, maybe it might be appropriate, which would be, or maybe I would play this.
Yeah.
And I don't even know what this is, but maybe it sounds good in that thing. So I don't know. I just make everything up all the time.
Wow. So you're playing a lot by ear. So I guess knowing, you know, working in the pop industry, how I can see how that would be very, very useful, because a lot of it is just playing what's appropriate. So I guess off on a slight tangent to the questions, how do you come up with parts and stuff then when you do pop gigs? Is it all by ear? Do you get told by the MDs? How do you find?
Yeah, it's a mixture of that. If I personally come up with parts, is by ear. I never got given like a partition or like something written where I would have to play something. I can read music and I can write music.
Yeah.
The problem is just translating it to the guitar because I don't know the notes in the fretboard. So I write notation way faster than I read it.
No way.
But, yeah, it's all weird. But anyway.
I hope, Gareth, that answers your question. I think we've touched on the cage system a little bit, but that's that one.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's just, you know, let's just keep working through the questions, I guess.
Cool.
Aaron, hey guys, 2 questions in one. Are you guys sold on gear like Kempers over amps? Have you used Kempers or alternatives on any big gigs records with success? Do you get nervous? Okay, well, let's do that. Let's deal with that one first. Do you want me to go first? So
you go first now.
This is what, if I just say what is in front of me, just above my webcam is a Kemper. Now, and I have an amp in the corner. So let me just, my opinion on both, and this is what I think about the both of them. The Kemper, if I had to choose one piece of equipment, which, how can I say this? Which I wouldn't be without anymore for touring, for everything, I might say it's the Kemper. If I probably would. It literally just, for me, when I first had one, which is going back pretty much when they first came out, 2014 sort of time, it did sort of change things for me a little bit. I absolutely love the Kemper. Have I used it on any big gigs? Yes. I used it on Jessie J's gig. That was all I've used. Mel C, Liam Payne. I've used that for all the pop artists since 2015, I think. Before that, I was very much on amps, and I absolutely love it. I use it for home recording more than I do micing an amp up these days, just because it's quick, you know, quick access to stuff. However, does it replace an amp for me, and do I still prefer an amp? No, I still absolutely I prefer an amp over the Kemper any day of the week, just because of the way it reacts with you playing. You just don't get that same feeling out of a Kemper that you do out of an amp, especially with a tube amp. And I do miss making a load of noise, but that's my feeling on the Kemper. I do love it, and but back in 2011 when I did Tiny Temper's gig, I had this enormous rack. I mean, it was like the rack you dream of as a kid, 2 4x12s. Big old preamps everywhere, trays of pedals and all this, and it sounded amazing. Did it sound better than my Kemper? Yes. However, if I had to take that rig out again over a Kemper, what would I take? I'd take the Kemper. I can pick the Kemper up, take her on a plane. If it goes down, I just switch my other one on. It's very easy and convenient. Over to you.
All right, so if I had to choose one piece of equipment to bring with me everywhere all the time, that would be the Kemper. And to start off like you did, if you guys could see what I have next to me here is a Kemper. And right now I'm in Rome. I'm not even in London.
Oh, no way.
Friend's studio, yeah. I'm at a friend's place, and the only thing I brought with me was a Kemper.
Yeah.
So, do I prefer Kemper over amps? Yes. I know it's weird, but I
Wow.
do.
Yeah.
And there's a reason for that. I never used amps
Okay.
because I never could afford one. So I
Sure.
started off using digital stuff anyway,
No way. Okay.
like a pod and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So I've been used to the digital world forever. I've used amps recently, obviously, but still, the versatility of the Kemper and the way I managed to kind of get to know the machine allows me to have so much more control, even on like the notes and the way, like, I don't know, it just feels weird. I connect to an amp and it feels like this, it's messier,
Yeah.
like the lows kind of travel differently, and
Absolutely.
the trebles are not controlled as I want, and the compression is not right. I guess I'm like too used now to like the more of a producer point of view on
Yeah.
your sounds than a actual guitar player used to sitting in front of an amp.
How do you find that then?
Uh,
Exactly what you just said when it comes to doing the pop gigs. Exactly sort of what you mentioned. You're thinking as a producer in that situation rather as a guitarist. Like I find myself is the same. You know, some sounds I make might think, on its own, it's not a great guitar sound, but in the mix, it's perfect.
Yeah.
You find the same thing as well?
Same thing.
Yeah.
And this is a great tip for you guys. Don't try and craft your tones just on their own. Maybe start off with the guitar, with just the guitar, but then play the song and try and get the mix right. Don't have the guitar super loud over the track. Just try and get the mix right, like like it should sound on like a stage, and then try and see what works and what doesn't. And sometimes you might find out that even if you go to the extreme, it might sound better. And the extreme is never not allowed. Even if you like have an EQ curve that goes like that,
Yeah.
it might be the right thing for a thing, for a specific part.
For sure.
And also, like, it's very important to have your space in the mix, because you might be the greatest guitar player and have the greatest tones, but then they might not be able to pierce through the mix.
For
And
sure.
then you end up not being heard by anyone. Anyway.
Absolutely, 100%.
And then you give extra work to the mixing engineer, and then also they are gonna put their footprint onto your sounds just because they have to correct everything. Whereas if you kind of have that approach from the beginning, then you're crafting the sounds the way you want them. And then obviously, I mean, we're lucky enough because we rehearse a lot with the artists, so we get the time to listen to the things in the in-ears and then in the monitors in the main room and blah blah blah, and then really refine everything. But yeah, I find the Kemper being like the most useful tool ever.
Yeah.
Also, the only thing I would miss from the Kemper would be like the actual tube response.
Yeah.
Just the physical response of the tubes. But little spoiler, I recently developed a preamp for the Kemper with a company. And
Nice.
that's a tube preamp especially made for the Kemper.
Okay.
Right,
Nice.
yeah, gain,
When is-
EQ.
When is that coming out?
Probably next week, I think.
Oh, sick. You allowed to talk about that or not, or is it hush hush at the moment?
I am. Yeah. I filmed.
Please tell me more, because I'm thinking I might need to get one. Tell me a bit more then.
It's a 1 year rack.
Yeah.
Very slick, very elegant.
Nice.
I'll show you.
Yeah.
And you have on the front panel you have gain. So when you put it flat, it's actually like you're not adding any gain.
Mm-hmm.
But then you can add, and
Okay.
it gives you a saturation like a real tube distortion.
Wow.
If you ever wanted to do that, I use it in the studio a lot. If
Yeah.
I just want to boost up sound a little bit rather than adding an overdrive from the Kemper, I just do it from there, and it's super
Nice.
useful. And then EQ, just bass, mid, treble, which is very effective, like
Okay.
drastically effective. So once again, if you put it in the middle, flat, it's not adding or taking anything out. I did it especially for that. We went through
Wow.
prototypes because I wanted the flat positions to be exactly just like warmer.
Yeah.
Nothing changing. And then pre-post EQ, just if you want to use acoustic, it's probably better just to bypass the EQ. And it's got 3 valves, very high end.
Nice. What company is that with? You like to say?
Yeah, JK Amplifiers. They're
Nice.
like a boutique custom amplifier company.
Very
We
nice.
developed that during lockdown.
Wow, that sounds very exciting.
It's changed everything. You have no idea how drastically the sound changed.
Well, I'm looking forward to having a go.
Amazing. Yeah. Definitely.
sounds-
Let's keep in touch for that.
Yeah, for sure. I'm 100% because that's why I miss out with the camp. You know, like you're saying, I love it. I'm all for the camp, and I do about one gig a year these days where I need to take an amp. I do this TV gig where I should use a Kemper really, but they want an amp for the look. And every time I plug it in, I'm like, oh, this is nice. You know, the valves and the feeling, and then that's all I really miss from the Kemper. But everything you mentioned about it, it's just the programmability of it, especially for pop gigs. It's just you can't really beat it. You know, you can just fine tune every single sound exactly where you need it to,
and to such a degree, like you can. It's got so many parameters, like pick, compression of the sound, like so many different things.
Yeah,
you bias so many things anyway.
Definitely, we should work. I always keep saying this. I should work for Kemper. The amount of people I think I've recommended Kemper to report, I'm like, I should have shares in Kemper.
Same, Christoph, please listen to us.
Please, Christoph, yes.
Give us some Kempers, please.
Please give us a shot.
We're ready. Just throw some at us.
So let's move on. There's another question in this talking about nerves and stuff. Do you guys still get nervous? If so, how do you overcome playing in front of peers or a big audience? So over to you first on that one. You get nervous still when you're playing?
I don't get nervous still because I never got nervous in the first place, really. I'm a bit of a weird case, yeah.
Wow.
I don't really... So this can be a good thing, but it can also be a bad thing in some situations. I never kind of feel anxious or nervous or any type of way when I get on stage. Even when it's a like big show like Glasgow. I just don't, it just doesn't change me. I don't get like shaky or whatever.
Have you always been like that? You've always been
always
that way?
been like that.
Wow.
But it's weird because sometimes I want to feel it a little bit.
Yeah.
Like,
do you have any
I'm on such a big stage, but no. It's
you don't get anxious feeling or like a bit of a buzz before you go out or anything like that?
Not at all, unless something really goes wrong.
Yeah.
Which happened to me at the Brits.
Go on. Tell all. What happened?
I mean, yeah, that's quite a story. We had rain on stage.
Oh.
And pyrotechnics. And pyros were like 1 meter away from me, which is super close. And the explosion is so loud.
Yeah.
You have no idea. And then like it was fire at first, and it's so hot. I felt like I was burning. And it went like boom, so loud that my legs started shaking when I was playing. And then after that, we had rain on stage for the last song, which we only managed to rehearse once before the actual performance, and one of my pedals broke, but we never realized until right before the performance.
Oh,
we went on stage like 1 minute before the performance, and I started going through all my pedals, and there was this weird noise like
oh no.
So I started going through everything, and then it was one pedal giving that noise, probably like the jack socket or something.
Yeah.
You kind of twist it a little bit, but then all my gear was covered in like trash bin bags.
Yeah, okay, from the pyro.
Yeah, and because of the rain. So I had
to
I had like 1 minute, so I kind of fixed it, but then I had to touch it so many times during the thing. So I found out that if I stepped on it very hard, it would make the noise. If I do it like soft, it wouldn't make the noise. But then right in that moment, you have to maybe like just go like ta ta ta, like 3 pedals.
Yeah.
And you have to be quick. But then you have to remember that one you have to hit very soft. Like if it's too soft, it doesn't turn on. So I mean, there's all that. That gives me anxiety, obviously.
I think that'd give most people anxiety, to be honest. When gear goes wrong, it is the most awful feeling because you just have no control over it, you know. And like,
especially in those situations.
And those are the worst ones where it happens in the big gigs because you never have time, you know, on a festival if something's broken or, you know, there's just never any time. And it's funny, I think the more it happens, because it happens a lot, does it get easier? No, you just get a bit more chilled about it all, I think. I've had some awful ones as well. And sometimes there's just nothing you can do.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, there's nothing when you're dealing with pyro, smoke, flames, you know, artists coming up through the stage, like things fly. It's just, you know, the guitar's a bit of an afterthought. And, you know, it's stressful for us. And it gets to a point, I don't know, I find them to say, oh, well, it is what it is sometimes.
Exactly.
You know, I've had, on Tiny's Arena tour, I had this big, like I said, this massive rack thing. Everything was controlled off the HD. So I didn't impress anything. It was all MIDI hooked up and I just didn't do anything. And something went and I went from like 100 sounds, you know, before one of the arenas. And I had 3 sounds, I had a clean sound and just like a boost. And it's just like, just before the stage, my techs come up to me going, "Oh, your gear's not working." Like, well, great, thanks. You know, it's like, what am I supposed to do? It just does happen. But I mean, I'll go back to that myself about the nerves. I don't know about you. You mentioned you didn't get nervous. I find it worse. Like a Glastonbury, a big festival, I don't get nervous for that stuff at all, really, which is bizarre. I'd probably be more nervous to play in front of 100 people than 100,000 people.
I would have said the same thing.
You
I
know?
don't still get nervous for that, but yeah, I feel it way more.
You feel it more because you can see people's face and you can see people's reaction. On the big gigs, it's not intimate like it is in a smaller thing. And yeah, that is sort of, nerves is one of those things. For me, it just went away as I've got more comfortable with live performance and the instrument. You know, yes, absolutely. Did I get really nervous when I was younger? Of course, you know, first gigs and things like this. Probably one of the most nervous I ever was my first ever West End dep. Now that is absolutely terrifying. You know, just because you're going into a theatre, everyone in the band has heard the guitar play exactly the same from the same person for like 4 months, and you're going in with no rehearsal, looking at the music, and off you go. That is very scary. But again, you know, the more you do this stuff, it's kind of repetition. The more you do stuff, the less nervous you will get. So I hope that answers your question. So move on to the next one. Have you ever offered your services for free at the start of your careers, like for a session, just to get some experience and build some connections? Go on, over to you for this one.
All right. Yes, the answer is yes. And the answer is I have offered my services for free even now. That is something that I still do if it's for a good reason. So right now, for example, I produce a lot. I can mix a bit, but I want to be better at mixing. So what do? I have some friends in the industry who are like Grammy-winning mixing engineers. So I would go to one of my friends and be like, "Hey, listen, if you ever need somebody to make pasta while you're in the studio, or just like, I don't know, whatever, clean the synth, whatever, I just stay there and watch you mix. And then in return, please just explain to me what you're doing. I won't interact with you apart from that. I won't disturb you or anything, but I want to see how you do things live in the flesh. I don't want to like just open a book and study what parallel compression is. I want to see it done. I want to see the many possibilities and stuff like that. So that can be useful. On the other end, offering your services for free when you're actually doing something that's a job and not getting anything in return that's fair, I don't think I would recommend that. So don't be desperate for a gig, or don't like underestimate yourselves. If somebody calls you up for a session and goes like, "Can you record guitars for me for this, and that?" Don't just say, "Yes, I'll do it for free," just to do it. Unless they are a friend, or unless they're doing something for you, or unless it can be useful. Because it might be a low price, or it might even be the case of you not doing it.
For sure.
It's fine.
Yeah. It's okay to say no sometimes. I
definitely.
found. Yeah. I mean, like when I first started out, did I do stuff for free? Yes. You know, if I think back, especially some of the amateur dramatic theatres I mentioned, did I do that stuff for free? Well, yeah, because I was doing it for a school, you know, and they might give you petrol money or something like this, but I wasn't in it for the money at that point. That was very much, I'm just doing this to get better. But everything you've just said, absolutely agree with. I'd still do something for free now for the right person or for the right reason, you know. But if I'm working, I absolutely know I ain't doing it for free.
Yeah,
you know, I'm not going to call a plumber to come fix my boiler and then ask him to do it for free. You know, if I called a plumber, asked to fix my boiler, and he wanted a guitar lesson, he might fix my boiler for free, and I might give him a free guitar lesson. Perfect. You know, there's ways like that you can make it work, but you know, don't undervalue yourself. I know it's really hard when you first start out, because you think, well, I've not done anything, I don't have a CV, you know, all of this, but don't undervalue yourself. But if if it's worth it for you, then you need to make that call when the time comes, I guess.
Yeah.
So, Jonathan, I hope that clears up your question. On to the next one, Camilla. 2 questions. Oh, this is for you, Luca. So,
Right. Ciao, Camilla.
Italia. Ciao, Camilla. Come stai?
Oh, good.
Very small.
Charming.
Charming. How do I say it? Sono guitarista di Emma Marrone.
Why? Did you work with her?
Yes, I did. I'd worked
Oh,
with
wow.
Emma. Yeah. I did.
Nice.
Was it 2016? I did her Adesso album tour for like
Okay.
three or 4 months. I think we did all over Italy.
Wow, awesome. You'll have
It was
to tell me
cool.
about that offline.
I will.
later.
I will tell. Anyway, so 2 questions for you. How did you feel when you first arrived in the UK, and was it hard to get used to this life?
Yes. Let me just finish reading.
Yeah, go for it.
All right. So first question. Okay. Yes, it was hard. There is a cultural gap. It is undeniable. So obviously the impact of moving to a different place that's not your place where you grew up is big already. Moving to a different country is something else. And moving to a different country where they speak a different language is a big barrier. And then obviously you have to be able to be sensitive enough to connect and interact with people that might have had a different background and might approach things in life differently than you do. And the work ethics is very different in the UK, I find, rather than Italy. And even the way culturally people interact with each other in a job, in a working environment is very different. So I had to really adjust myself to that. Kind of change my approach a little bit to kind of compromise myself with what I had in front of me and really learn what is the best way to connect with the people on a deeper level than just like working together. And that took a while. And then also, obviously I miss my country a lot. So much.
And the food, right? Oh.
And the food.
And the wine.
Especially that. Yeah.
Yeah.
And the sun and the
Yes.
beach and everything.
And the people, yeah, everything.
I do. So yeah, it was difficult. And also you have to allow yourself some time to really learn the language. And I haven't yet, obviously.
Oh, your English is amazing.
No, it's not.
It's
very,
very
be able
good.
to communicate in a good way to people. And I love talking to people and trying to connect at a deeper level. You have to kind of master the language a little bit. Because I think the biggest difficulty for me at first was I would have like big chats with people and then go back home and feel like, wow, I really showed like 10% of myself in that chat because I couldn't say the things I wanted to say.
Sure.
And that's probably the biggest gap at the beginning, the biggest obstacle to overcome. But then obviously if you persist and like you want to do it, it's just going to happen. And I must say as well, people in the UK generally, I don't like general things, but generally I found that people in the UK are far more willing to accept people coming from abroad with different backgrounds, different stories, different languages, different everything. It's so much easier for an Italian guy to go to the UK and find friends or people willing to accept you rather than an English guy coming to Italy, for example.
Sure.
So luckily there's a good ground to kind of plant your seeds, basically. I know I'm using this seed metaphor too much.
But it makes sense though.
It doesn't want to be sexual.
No, I can see I can see exactly what you're saying. So let's quickly get through because we're running out of time. So let's just quickly get to these other questions. Hope that answers some stuff for you, Camilla. Right, where am I going? As a guitarist, what's the main skill the drummer needs to have you? Okay, so as a guitarist then, Luca, what is the main thing you're looking for drummers you play with?
They have to be good. They have to be able to play at the right timing.
That's all I was going to say. For me, if you can't play in time, then you're a drummer. That's for me the most fundamental thing as a drummer. You got to be playing time.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know?
And I should say, like, my answer finishes there. Like, obviously, if you're good and you're amazing, that's great. But if you overdo stuff, it needs to be the right stuff. And you have to really be sensitive and elegant about that. Otherwise, I much prefer a drummer who's not that technical.
Yeah.
But just stays there and does what he has to do.
Absolutely.
Not doing too much. Just being there, kind of invisible, but like solid and always there. Drummers don't need to be, I mean, for me to have pleasure in playing with people, they don't need to be like virtuosos, like technically excellent. Just play what you play and just do what you feel confident in doing and you're sure about doing.
Yeah.
Just not to disturb anyone else, basically.
I think that's it. Playing time is absolutely the most important. Have a nice feel, you know. And I suppose the other thing, if I'm trying to get into a bit more technical, one thing that does irritate me about drummers is drummers are not very consistent with how they hit things. So there's some drummers that might wallop the snare drum really, really hard, you know, but their bass drum might be a bit light. That irritates me a little bit as well. Yes, we can do stuff in the mix, but look at the volume output of everything. Think of the drums as an acoustic instrument. You don't want to just hear the snare drum or just the crash, you know. Think of what you're giving acoustically to an audience just from the drum kit. So hope that makes sense. Let's move on quickly. Is there a guitar technique or skill that you would categorize as the most important that you would tell your younger self to master?
Wow.
Yeah, that's just one to think about, actually. If you had to give advice to your younger self when you were first starting out, what would it be? It's the same sort of thing, really. Go for it. Yeah, I'll let you start with that. I was going to say, that's over to you. That's a good question. And do you know something to say?
Okay, all right, yeah. I wouldn't categorize one as the most important one, but a thing that came to my mind is I learned so many things through classical techniques that I can now use in fingerstyle, and they're absolutely fundamental for me. So even the way to use your nails when you're playing the guitar, classical and acoustic especially, and the way like the angles you like move your hand and have different sounds, and the way to have a very sweet and consistent sound over the strings, or like play all the strings at a certain volume but one, and one plays very loud and plays the melody, or like play different things with your fingers and they have all different volumes and different dynamics. That's all very difficult kind of stuff. It's very technical. Took me a lot to learn, took me like a lot of effort to master, but it helped me so much. And also like many electric guitar players who approach playing melodies and chords together, they often do it in the jazz way, which is basically like you play a melody and then you play it like that. Classical guitar gave me the tools to conceive a different way to do it. It's more like a piano than a guitar. So like, and have different voices going on.
Sure, that's really nice.
Anyway, so that.
Lovely.
Definitely.
So I think for me, I guess, what would I tell my younger self to play? As much as my younger self wouldn't want to hear this answer, I would just say, get better at rhythm guitar. You know, I probably spent a lot of my younger days trying to play as fast as I possibly ever could, you know, and how much sweeping and shredding could I do? Whereas really, you know, when you get onto a point where you're working, you're playing rhythm guitar most of the time. So being able to play rhythm guitar in multiple styles, you know, like especially if you want to do the theatre stuff or the recording session stuff, I probably would do that. You know, I think one year when I played with Jesse, I literally spent 12 months just playing acoustic guitar, hardly touched an electric, didn't play any solos. I just literally played rhythm, playing bang in time. You know, can I be as solid as a rock with a metronome as I need to be? You know, as much as when you're playing just with a singer, you have to move with him a little bit as well. You know, oops, that was my phone. You have to move with push and pull, but yeah, rhythm, I'd probably tell my younger self to just practice your bloody rhythm guitar more.
Great.
So that's that one. Let's quickly get through the rest. This is I'm just quickly looking at the next two. Any suggestions? So this is quite something which I thought would be good for us to talk about as well, which sort of ties in with this question there. Obviously, at the moment, the world is in a funny place, and the music industry there is nothing right now. There's no live music, at least, okay, because of COVID. And for example, for the students, what would you recommend? The fact that at the moment they can't go out to jam sessions, they can't really meet up with people as we would have done when we were going through this, when we were up and coming. What would you recommend people doing in the current circumstances?
Do you want to start?
Okay, so I can start this. So I had a conversation. I did another talk like this not long ago, and my sort of feeling behind this kind of thing is, yes, the music industry is in a little bit of the shit, if sorry for my French, but the live industry is nothing at the moment. We have many friends who are struggling, and it is really, really tough, and it's really, really sad as well. I've been doing this now for a long time. I'm 16, 17 years. I've been fully, professional as a guitarist, and this is the least I've played live since I was like 12 years old. I think since Marta played with a drummer once. It's just it's tough, it's not great. So what would I recommend people doing? The way I find the industry is a little bit, you might know a bit more about this sort of thing, is social media. Certainly with endorsements, it seems to be our Instagram followers these days. When I first started, it was who you're playing for, what TV shows you're on. Whereas these days, to get endorsements, it very much feels like companies look at Instagram followers, Facebook followers. So what I recommend people doing at the moment is get your marketing together. I don't like to talk to music as a business, but technically we are our own businesses. If you want to make money, you need to think of yourself a little bit like a business. So what can you do? Market yourself, get your social media together, get your website together, get some Facebook videos together. So when the industry does come back and you go out to meet people, what's the first things you meet someone in a pub these days? You go, oh, you're on Instagram. The next thing you're on your phone, you're adding people on Instagram, you're on Facebook, and people are watching your videos, you playing guitar. That's just kind of how we meet each other these days. It was very different when I started. We didn't have the iPhones, we didn't do that. It was very much done. I'm at this gig, you can hear you play, but that is something I would say I'd recommend you do for now. Just work on your behind the scenes marketing, get your website, get some photos, get your Instagram videos and all, whatever it needs to be. Just have all that stuff set, so when you do eventually get back gigging and meeting people, you've got a good backlog of all your marketing. Can you do you do much Instagram stuff? And
no,
Facebook?
I wasn't gonna reply to this because
me too. I'm shit at it as well. I am not good at it. I was just thinking quite a lot about this the other day. You have very much. We did this. Probably years before you, but very much the same way. We just went out. There wasn't this Instagram life that is in 2020, 2021. However, I think that if I was, 22 again, let's just say this, if I could go back to that, what would I be doing now? And what would I tell my younger self to do at this moment would be just get your website together, get your photos together, get your Instagram. So at least you have a good backlog of material, video yourself playing, put it on Instagram, even if it's not for followers, it's just mainly for when the industry comes back and you're out gigging, when you meet. So say me and Luca met in the pub, we had each other on Instagram. I'm like, I go home, I'm like, oh, he plays guitar, let's have a little look. Pressing the videos, like, oh, bloody hell, he's actually pretty good, I'll be interested in using it. I'm not saying I've never got any gigs of Instagram or Facebook, but that is probably what I'd recommend. So hopefully that answers that a little bit. There we go. That's another one to do with the Corona. Do you want to take that one? Because I blabbed on a little bit about marketing.
Yeah. So how did during lockdown staying away from live music work affect you as artists, musicians? In a bizarre way, it affected me positively because, as I was saying earlier when we weren't connected, so as a live musician, sometimes you get very busy, which is cool, but sometimes you get very, very, very busy, and it becomes stressful. This is one side of the job that not everybody knows when you're dreaming of it. Yeah. There is a side that's super, super difficult about it. So if you tour a lot, you might, I did 2 years of my life constantly touring. So you might be in Russia today, and then tomorrow you're flying at 3 a.m. and you go into Switzerland. You stay there for 18 hours. So you get there, do sound check, go take a shower, then you might want to sleep, but it's too early or late and you don't manage, and then run to the gig again, play the gig, travel to the airport, which might be like 4 hours away, and then fly again for maybe 8 hours to some other place. And then, I don't know, the vortex is done. And then you come back to London and you have 3 small gigs to do. Or like 1 rehearsals, but you have to learn like 45 tunes in 3 days. Stuff like that. It gets absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah.
Which is cool. Although, lockdown reminded me of how cool it is to eat proper food at home and be able to focus on something else, which is in my case music production. I started producing a while ago, and I was very lucky to be able to collaborate with so many big artists in that side. But I never could really make it grow as a thing because of the live jobs. I was too busy doing that. So lockdown kind of put me in that position where live wasn't a possibility anymore. And so I started producing every day and collaborating with so many people, because the flip side is so many people became available. Everybody was free.
Yeah, it's true.
Like, nobody had anything to do anyway. So you could just like message people and be like, yo, do you want to do an online producing session together today? Yeah, cool. I've got nothing else to do. Let's do it. People that I might not have met for like 3 years, and maybe we would have planned to meet for like 4 years.
Yeah.
And it only happened during lockdown. So in a weird way, it was positive for me. And obviously not playing live was really weird. But I guess that being in the studio every day and loving what I was doing kind of compensated that.
Sure.
Now it's getting a bit weirder, obviously.
Yeah, I'm ready to do some gigs now.
A little bit.
I'm starting to miss it a little
definitely.
bit now. Do you know what I found a little weird is it's sort of hit, and I was like, oh yes, I get to be at home for a little while. Kind of what you were saying, you know, it's like I don't have to go away for 5 minutes. You know, it's like amazing. Because you know, as much, you know, we're very fortunate to do what we do, but it does get times on the road where you're just like, I just want to be at home. I'm sick of these airports. I'm sick of being on a plane. I don't mean to be moaning about the job, but you know, it's like, it's just, you know, you go to some places.
That's one side of it anyway.
That's one side of it,
Might
which
as well say
it's the truth. You know, it is the truth. It is. It's not all glamorous as it looks on the TV. You know, there's a lot of economy flying and, you know, shitty hotels, and, you know, it's part and parcel of it. And there are times when you're like, I wish I could be at home, but it's definitely hit that point now. I'm like, yeah, I'd love a little, you know, month-long tour somewhere, just, you know, just doing some gigs. It doesn't even have to be big gigs, just to be out and just doing it again. I'm missing it. So have we got time for one more question?
If you guys got some time, then let's do the last question, and then
is that okay with you, Luca?
Yeah, all good, all good.
Yeah, there's one more to go, so let's just do that one. I think we've blasted through all of them then. So another guitar-related question: what type of guitar techniques would you recommend to do when it comes to practicing? So let's just there was some more stuff. So what do you do when you practice? Do you practice, Luca? Do you have a strict routine, or what's your vibe?
Okay, drum roll. No, I don't practice.
You don't practice?
No, I mean I do it.
Yeah.
Kind of. You might call it practice, but I just play. I never practice as such. I always only play. Ever since I was a kid, I play every single day.
Yeah.
Every day. It might be for 10 minutes, but every single day. Sundays I would play for 10 hours. I don't know, it's just how I feel.
Just
but
playing.
I don't know any guitar techniques really, apart from the classical guitar techniques. So I don't practice anything in particular, ever. I just play whatever I feel like I want to play. That's it.
Wow.
And I would really recommend to you guys, don't necessarily be stuck in like, I have to learn this like alternate picking or whatever, and I have to learn this and I have to learn that. Just play. Just pick a tune you like, or just grab the guitar and play something. Just something. And then some random ideas might come to you. It sounds weird. Or like, you might find out some weird techniques that you wouldn't explore otherwise. It's like the most important thing is just have fun. Develop the connection between you and the instrument where you're only actually playing and you're not thinking about, if I move my hand like that, and I put my pick like that, and then this hand goes like that, and then I do this, and then I do... No, just forget all of that if you can. obviously practice your things. Just become like, dexterity is important. Just do your gym for the hands. Just get to a certain level where you're satisfied with the movements and the technique is right in order for you to not have pain. That's what's important to me. Apart from that, just play. Just play. Don't think about anything else. Just play. Because then when you're on stage, you have to play anyway.
Exactly. I love that. No, that's really cool. I mean, so from my point of view with that sort of stuff, have I gone through the periods in my life where I've done like really regimented practice? Yes. Do I practice like that now? No. I'm the same as you. I just play guitar. I haven't sat down and I sometimes feel I should, if I'm honest, but I should sit down and do my regimented practice, but I don't know, I just play these days. I just play music, I jam the backing tracks. You know, if there's something I want to learn, I'll transcribe it and just figure it out, you know, that sort of thing. What I would recommend if you're doing a degree course or you're doing something where you're studying like this is, you know, if I had to break my practice, if you had to break it down into 3 sections, do a bit of technique, your guitar gym stuff, your dexterity, your scales, just to keep tidy, so your fingers are feeling good, they're moving. Learn new stuff. You know, if that's stuff off your courses, spend time doing that. So say you had 1 hour, split it up into 3 sections, do 20 minutes on your guitar gym dexterity. The second part then do your degree stuff or, you know, your course stuff where you're learning whatever you need to be relevant to your course to get your grades. And then the third part of that 20 minutes, just play something, just play music. So that's a very broad overview, but I think that would hopefully incorporate kind of what we are doing these days, which is playing, you know, some of your technique stuff, and then also the things you need to be learning for your courses. So I hope that helps from that side of thing. But it's really interesting to know you do that as well. I thought it was just me being lazy, but I just kind of like pick the guitar up. You know, there's always one everywhere. There's a guitar somewhere, and you know, just kind of play it these days. It's making music, I guess. I don't know. Maybe it's because we've been working in the business a while. I mean, you said you've never done it, but for me, definitely since I've been working more than not working, I just like to play music rather than being too regimented with stuff. You know, maybe I'd be better if I did more practice. Who knows? You know, it is what it is.
Amazing. Great. Thank you so much, guys.
You're welcome. Thanks for having us.
It was fantastic. And if you want, do write your Instagram handles or something like that into the chat bar. You said you're not really doing too much, so we can help you growing that. No.
You can follow me though.
Yeah.
Always need new followers.
Yeah.
No, exactly. That was what I meant. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's my Instagram handle. I'm so useless, I don't even know what it is. I think it's that.
Amazing. So for everyone who's watching, check it out and leave a follow. And thank you so much, and have a good evening.
Yeah, thank you very much. Thanks for having me. Luca, give me a shout soon. Let's chat soon. It'd be good to
Ryan, text me your number on Insta.
I will do. That's what I'll do. Yeah, we'll speak soon.
Awesome.
Amazing.
Thanks, guys. Catch you all later.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
See you. Bye. Bye.